I don't know when I realized it. Maybe it was the quiet moments I spent alone, staring out at the rain as it fell in sheets outside my window. Maybe it was the long, sleepless nights when I lay awake, tossing and turning, replaying every decision I had made, wondering if I could have done something different. But the truth is, I didn't know exactly when it happened. I just knew that I had reached a point where the weight of my choices was too much to bear. I had always prided myself on being someone who made decisions carefully, someone who thought things through before acting. But this decision, the choice I had made, it wasn't something I had thought through at all. It wasn't even a conscious decision. It was a reaction. It was an impulse. It was a way to escape from a life I had stopped recognizing, from a version of myself that had grown too comfortable with the familiar. I had always believed that I knew who I was, that I knew what was right and wrong, that I understood the consequences of my actions. But that was before the choice, before everything changed. It all started with him. I didn't plan for it to happen. I didn't seek it out, and I certainly didn't expect to fall into it. But the truth is, when it came to him, I couldn't stop myself. He was the kind of person who entered your life quietly, without fanfare. But the moment he walked into my world, everything felt different. He made me feel things I hadn't felt in years, things I had buried deep within myself. We met at a friend's party. It wasn't the kind of event where you expected anything significant to happen. Just a group of old friends catching up, a few drinks and the usual small talk. But when I saw him, I didn't know what hit me. There was nothing overt about him. He wasn't the loudest in the room, nor the most outgoing. He was quiet, reserved, and he had a way of listening, really listening, like he was present in every moment. And when he looked at me, when his eyes met mine, it felt like he could see straight into me, like he knew everything I had been hiding from the world. I tried to brush it off, to convince myself that it was nothing. But as the night wore on, I found myself drawn to him. We talked about life, about our pasts, about things that didn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but somehow felt significant in the moment. And somewhere in the middle of the conversation, I found myself laughing in a way I hadn't in a long time. Genuine laughter. The kind that came from deep inside. The kind that didn't have to be forced. It felt easy. It felt like we had known each other forever, but that was the first moment. The moment I should have walked away. The moment I should have told myself that this wasn't the kind of thing I could entertain, that I had a life, that I was committed to someone else. But I didn't. I stayed. And I let myself be drawn in. The next few weeks were a blur of stolen moments. He would text me, and I would find myself replying, even though I knew I shouldn't. I would find excuses to see him, to spend time with him. And each time we were together, it felt more and more like we were something that wasn't supposed to be. It wasn't love, not yet. But it was something else. It was desire. It was a longing. It was the feeling of being seen by someone in a way that no one else had ever seen me. But with every moment that passed, the guilt began to creep in. I couldn't stop thinking about the life I had at home, the partner who had been with me through everything, the person who had supported me, loved me, believed in me. I was betraying them. I knew that. I knew that every time I met with him I was choosing to hurt someone I loved, someone who deserved better than this. I was making a choice, and that choice was tearing me apart. It wasn't long before the inevitable happened. One night, we found ourselves alone, the air thick with unspoken words, with emotions we hadn't yet acknowledged. I could feel it building between us, this tension that we had both been ignoring for weeks, until it was impossible to ignore any longer. He reached out to touch my hand, his fingers brushing against mine, and in that moment, everything inside me told me to stop, to pull away. But I didn't. I couldn't. The pull was too strong. Our lips met, tentative at first, but then it deepened. And for a moment, it felt like everything else disappeared. It felt like we were the only two people in the world, like this moment was all that mattered. I knew it was wrong. I knew it didn't change the fact that I was with someone else, that I was betraying the trust of the person who loved me. But in that moment, I didn't care. I was overwhelmed by the rush of feelings, by the intensity of it all, and I couldn't stop myself. When it was over, when the moment passed, the reality hit me like a freight train. What had I just done? What had I allowed myself to do? I could feel the weight of the betrayal pressing down on me, and I knew that I couldn't go back to what we had. I couldn't undo it. I couldn't erase the choice I had made. But then came the second choice, the one that would define everything. I could walk away. I could end it then and there, cut ties with him and go back to my life. I could apologize to my partner, confess the mistake I had made, and beg for forgiveness. It would be messy, but at least I would be trying to fix it. At least I could begin to repair what I had broken. Or I could stay. I could continue down the path I had started, the path of lies, the path of keeping secrets, of living in the shadow of the choice I had made. It wasn't a simple choice. It wasn't a choice I could make lightly. But I didn't know what else to do. The pull was too strong. The connection I felt with him was undeniable. I had felt something with him that I hadn't felt in years, something I hadn't even known I was missing. And so I chose to stay. I chose to continue the affair. I chose to let the lies build up around me, to let the weight of my actions drag me further into the darkness. I chose the excitement of something forbidden, the rush of being desired in a way that I hadn't felt in so long. I chose the easy escape from the reality I had built, the reality that no longer felt like mine. But as time went on, I began to feel the consequences of that choice. The lies I had told, the guilt I carried, the constant fear of being caught. It was all consuming. Every day felt like a weight I couldn't escape from. I couldn't look my partner in the eye without feeling the shame, the self-loathing, the realization that I had chosen to betray someone who trusted me. I tried to justify it. I told myself that it wasn't all bad, that the affair wasn't just about the physical connection, but about the emotional one too. He made me feel alive, something I hadn't felt in years. But that was a lie. It wasn't just about that. It was about escaping the reality of my life. It was about feeling wanted, feeling desired, feeling like I was still capable of being someone's first choice. But the truth was, I had already made my choice. And now, I had to live with it. I had to live with the fact that I had betrayed the person who trusted me the most, the person who had given me everything. I had to live with the fact that I had chosen to take the easy path, to avoid the hard work of confronting my own feelings and the consequences of my actions. And as I stood there, looking at the shattered pieces of everything I had built, I knew that there was no going back. The choice I made had altered everything. It had changed me. And there was no way to undo it. But as painful as it was, as much as I regretted what I had done, I knew that the choice was mine to own. It was mine to learn from. And though I couldn't change the past, I could try to learn from it, to become a better person, to face the consequences of my actions. The weeks that followed the choice I made felt like a long, dark tunnel. Each day I woke up to the same guilt, the same shame. It was like I was walking through my own life, but nothing felt real anymore. Everything had been shattered. my relationship, my own sense of integrity, and the trust I had built over years. All of it had been thrown into chaos in a single moment of weakness, and now I was left to pick up the pieces. I tried to go through the motions, to pretend everything was normal. I still spent time with my partner. I still came home at the same time, smiled the same smile, cooked the same meals. But every time we touched, every time I looked at them, I felt the weight of what I had done. It wasn't just the guilt of the affair. It was the knowledge that I was betraying them with every passing moment, and there was no way to undo it. The lies I told, the moments we shared, they all felt tainted by the secret I was carrying. And then there was him, the man who had been my escape, the man who had drawn me in with his quiet attention, his understanding, his ability to make me feel alive in a way that I hadn't felt in years. I couldn't stop thinking about him. I couldn't stop thinking about how he made me feel, seen, appreciated, wanted. The connection between us had been undeniable, something neither of us had expected but both had craved. But it wasn't real. It couldn't be real. It was based on lies, on stolen moments, on something we both knew was wrong. One night, after a long day of pretending everything was fine, I found myself staring at my phone, scrolling through old messages. It was him. He had sent me a message earlier that day, just asking how I was doing, but I had ignored it. I couldn't face him. I couldn't face the reality of what had happened, what we had done. But now, sitting there in the silence of my apartment, the loneliness pressing down on me, I opened the message. "How are you?" I stared at the screen for a long time, my finger hovering over the keyboard. I had no idea what to say. What could I say? I wasn't sure if I was seeking comfort from him, or if I was just reaching out because I needed someone to talk to. Either way, I knew that responding would lead me down a path I wasn't sure I wanted to go down. I typed a response. "I'm not good." He replied almost immediately. "Do you want to talk?" I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of everything pressing on my chest. I knew this wasn't the right thing to do. I knew I shouldn't reach out to him, that it would only complicate everything further. But I couldn't stop myself. The pain of what I had done, the guilt of betraying someone I loved, was eating away at me. I needed to talk to him. I needed to hear his voice, to feel that connection again, even if it was wrong. "Can you meet me?" He didn't hesitate. "I'll be there in 15 minutes. When he arrived, I was sitting on the couch, trying to calm my racing heart. I hadn't seen him in over a week, and even though I knew it wasn't right, I couldn't help but feel a mixture of relief and guilt when I saw him standing in the doorway. "Hey," he said quietly, his voice almost tentative as he stepped inside. "How are you, really?" I didn't know how to answer. How could I? How could I explain to him that I had destroyed everything for a moment of escape, for something that was never meant to be? "I'm a mess," I finally admitted, my voice breaking. "I've made a huge mistake, and I don't know how to fix it." He didn't say anything at first. He just sat down beside me, his presence comforting in a way I didn't expect. We didn't touch. There was an unspoken understanding between us now. We both knew what had happened. We both knew that nothing could ever erase it, but there was also something else, something raw and vulnerable between us that neither of us knew how to navigate. "I'm sorry," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "I never meant for this to happen. I never meant to hurt anyone, especially you." He looked at me, his eyes soft, but filled with something I couldn't quite place. "I don't blame you," he said gently. "I'm not innocent in all of this either. We both knew what we were doing." I shook my head, tears streaming down my face. "But I'm the one who's in a relationship. I'm the one who's supposed to be faithful. And I failed." He didn't say anything to argue. He just let the silence settle between us, the weight of our choices hanging in the air. I don't know what to do, I continued, wiping my eyes. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know if I even want to fix it. His hand found mine, and this time I didn't pull away. You don't have to decide anything tonight, he said softly. But I think you need to figure out what you really want. For yourself. For a moment, I just stared at him, trying to understand what he meant. What did I want? Could I fix my life? My relationship? Was it possible to go back to a life I had destroyed with one reckless decision? Or had I gone too far? I didn't have the answers, but in that moment, I realized something. I couldn't keep running from the truth. I had to face it. I had to face the person I had become and the mess I had made of everything. I have to tell him, I said, my voice resolute. I have to tell my partner the truth. I can't live like this anymore. He nodded, his expression unreadable. That's a big step, but it's the only way forward. I spent the next few days wrestling with the decision. I knew it had to be done. I knew I had to confront the damage I had caused, the trust I had shattered. But I wasn't ready for the fallout. I wasn't ready to lose the person I had built a life with. And I wasn't ready to face the consequences of my actions. When the day finally came, I stood in front of my partner, my heart pounding in my chest. I had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times, but nothing prepared me for the pain that would come when I finally said the words. I've been unfaithful, I said, my voice breaking as I looked at them. I've betrayed you in the worst way possible, and I don't know how to fix it. The silence that followed was suffocating. My partner didn't speak. They didn't cry, didn't yell. They just looked at me, their eyes empty, as if they were trying to process what I had just said. Why? They finally asked, their voice cold and distant. I don't know, I whispered. I don't know why I did it. I don't know how I let it happen. I never thought you would do this, they said, their voice trembling with hurt. I thought we were happy. I thought you were happy. I was, I said, my heart breaking. I thought I was too. But somewhere along the way, I lost myself. And I made a choice that I can never take back. They stood up, walking away from me, unable to look me in the eye. I don't know if I can forgive you, they said quietly, their back turned to me. I don't know if I can trust you again. I stood there, helpless, as they left the room. And for the first time I realized that I had made the choice that would change everything. I had destroyed everything. And there was no undoing it. The days that followed were a blur. I tried to salvage what was left of my relationship, but the damage had been done. Trust, once broken, was impossible to rebuild. My partner and I spoke, but the words were hollow. The love that had once been so strong had faded, replaced by an unspoken tension that neither of us knew how to handle. I spent nights alone, regretting everything, wondering if I could ever make amends, if I could ever undo the pain I had caused. In the end, the affair ended. The relationship with my partner ended. But the choice I made, the affair that should have never happened, would follow me for the rest of my life. I couldn't escape it. It was a part of me now. A scar that I would always carry. But maybe that's what life is. One choice after another. Each one leading us down a path we can't take back. All we can do is face the consequences and try to learn from them.